I recently got into the whole debate of WoW and the, all the time gating and everything and how much I hate it. But is it a good thing? I mean, I'm one to listen to the other side's argument, right? Some people actually like the time gating. On my video that I talked about time gating and how it's an issue, a lot of people commented and said that they like the time gating, that it helps them with their current, work-life balance and everything going on, and they don't feel like they're missing out too much. So, WoW's single-player era. Gamers who benefit from time gating. Let's see what Soul So Breezy has to say about how some people are actually benefiting from the time gating within the time gating within the time gated content that we're currently getting. Oh, I watched I watched that video yesterday. It's going up live on my channel today.
This is Warcraft Weekly, and I have one question. Okay, I'm going to have more than one question, but I'll kick it off with this one. How was your week? Right now, we're in the middle of the second half of the later half of the season, and we're mentally juggling a few things. Horrific Visions rotated from one stage to another, and I'm going to talk more on that in just a few moments, but I've definitely noticed a drop-off in the rhetoric surrounding the time gating of things. It's probably because, well, it's here now, but I'm also observing people reacting to Visions now that it's on our plate of things to do, as opposed to a lot of us like analyzing and theory crafting player behavior due to the announcements, the news around Visions from months back.
Right.
But anyway, with this going on, next week we get to experience a different sort of event. Dastardly Duos also releasing.
Yeah, these go live today. I just forgot about that. Damn. Yeah, these go live today. So, I mean, Dastardly Duos, another piece of content. It's really just transmog and mounts and stuff that you get from this thing. But there's the whole bragging system of the ranking system that's going to be coming out with this.
Stages as we wrap
we'll see if it's popular or not. I'll try it tomorrow.
Bringing us more story and new delve things to do, another leveling event, and more. But it'll be easy enough to handle once we can, play with just one button. Back to Dastardly Duos, though, we have some very pleasant news that the feature can be taken on solo. At first, this was announced to be a group-centric activity, and there's nothing wrong with that, really. I bet it's going to be super fun to see gamers fight for the really high score, but now I'm very interested in checking this event out, knowing I don't have to, wrangle guildmates together on...
I guarantee you I will be top 5% in the entire world in Dastardly Duos. Okay, Kai? I guarantee it. I guarantee you guys always talking shit, and then Samiccus just shows up and obliterates content. We'll see.
Some set schedule on an off-raid night. In case you haven't looked into it, here's how it works. Starting next week, we can queue up for Dastardly Duos with 1 to 5 players over in our main capital city or in Dornical. We'll be taken to a green room of sorts where we can pick up some zany powers to help us through, and then we can enter available matches. And more will be introduced as the weeks go by. The gameplay isn't something I can speak to. I didn't have time to test it out myself, but it looks like it's going to play very arcadey, like there's going to be a challenge flavor to it.
Guys, I literally lead pug raids on a daily basis live on Twitch. Do you know how difficult that is? I gather up a giant ball of degenerates and get them to achieve things that they never thought possible. You think I can't defeat some bosses on my own? Single target that shit, do the mechanics and kill the boss? You think I can't do that shit? Come on. Come on, guys. You know me. You know me better than that.
You'll be dealing with multiple bosses and thus multiple boss mechanics overlapping on top of each other. And it's going to be a real hoot for those who've never fought some of these bosses.
I'm about to dominate this.
But for the most part, it's going to be more about, picking up crazy power-ups and trying out builds and loadouts and smashing for a high score and cosmetics and achievements. I think it's less of like a win-lose sort of situation, more like a win or win more kind of thing. So now all of a sudden I'm feeling more interested in what this group or solo event has to offer in this multi-course meal that is 1115. And that's kind of what I want to get into in the heart of today's weekly, solo content's rise in the world of Warcraft. I want you to take a step back with me and look at the WoW of today versus any previous time.
Clarmidia just mentioned another thing, Underpin, right? I mean, how much you guys had a lot of fun, and I had a lot of fun doing what's his name from the previous season, the Zekvir fight, right? That was great stream content, fighting the Zekvir fight. Even though I made it look real easy, it was pretty much a one-shot once I actually figured it out. I mean, but those were fun times. And there's a lot of fun solo content like that being added to the game, which actually has made a lot of interesting stream content as well for us. So I've been enjoying a lot of this stuff. And yes, it has made the game more solo-friendly for sure.
In WoW's history. Today, there's a lot of World of Warcraft that can be experienced without any other human players. It's endgame max level content, and it's not just group content you can do on your own, because, there is that, but in the case of Delves, it's almost an experience built for the solo player first. That
Yeah.
can be,
I mean, even the raid story now, you can just do it solo with the NPCs, right? Go in there, do the story mode version of the raid. So yeah, all the content now can be fully experienced with just playing it single player. Now, you're never going to get probably as geared as somebody who's actually doing group content, but that doesn't mean you can't get decently geared. You can. And now they're bringing overcharged elves in the next patch, which is even going to make you better geared.
in the group as well. Think
I mean,
of all
you
the
can-
things
you
we
can play
can do on our
certainly
own
single
during this
player.
season, from the outdoor zone content to Delves. Right now, there's Horrific Visions, and next week there's going to be Dastardly Duos, and way later, Player Housing is going to introduce a new style of gameplay not seen in World of Warcraft
that's true. I
before.
forgot about
This
Player
kind
Housing.
of freeform expression, not unlike painting or building with Legos. It's a step away from combat and more like the evolution of collection. We'll soon be able to make creations out of our imaginations, and mark my words, we're going to see some awesome things that we never thought we'd expect. And
Yeah.
it's mostly solo content with social options in this persistent world. World of Warcraft is more
Player housing is going to bring so many people into this game. I don't think you guys realize how big the cozy community of gamers are. There are people who literally just play player housing in different games, like on Twitch. I see it all the time on TikTok and my feeds and everything. There are so many people who play games just to be cozy. They call them cozy gamers. They're gonna love this shit. They're gonna eat it up, because right now, player housing in WoW seems to be like it's gonna be, as a classic Blizzard favorite, one of the best versions of player housing we've ever seen in an MMO. Blizzard, this is what they do. They take something from someone else, polish it up, and bring the best version of it ever. And it looks like they're returning to form with this one. This looks like it's going to be the best version of player housing ever.
solo friendly than ever before, and understandably, not everyone's a fan of
Yeah,
it.
cozies
There's
are-
always going to be
they're
that
coming in.
long-standing sentiment that the MMORPG
Cozies and furries. So furries already love WoW because of Volpera and Worgen, right? So, I mean, furries have already been big into what they got. Scalies now, too. But they're going to like it even more because this is going to be a closed environment for their orgies as well. So it's going to be big for them, too.
genre should be all about more or less forced multiplayer. That
Goodbye,
the best
Goldshire.
rewards and the most fun things are done with friends and building relationships and that sense of camaraderie. While in its early days, it reflected that sentiment, and still, it was much more accessible compared to other MMOs in its generation. It was already trying to appeal to a more casual audience. Back in those days, the idea of soloing was limited to leveling and professions and seeing how well you can kite elites and dungeon mobs. Options were limited, and epics were epics, all behind that social gate. Obviously, that definition of casual audience has changed over the years, not just WoW players, but gamers and, the rest of the world too. Like, where were you back during the Bush administration when gaming's hottest things were Grand Theft Auto San Andreas and, there's a PlayStation Portable? Those of us who've been hooked.
I wasn't allowed to play it because my parents didn't let me play rated M games. Yep. Yeah, I used to say Vice City. Vice City, I wasn't allowed to play. San Andreas, I played it a little bit.
To this
Don't
game
tell
for
my
over
mom.
a generation, hey, we got older. Our commitments grew. Our reflexes and willingness to stay up super late, not so much. Throughout WoW's past 20 years, the game has been trying to guess the right moves and playing catch up to the times. So that's meant more accessibility, more options for those of us who can.
He's saying we're old. He's saying WoW players in general are fucking old. You guys are all old. All right? I'm old. I started playing when I was 15, back in 2005. I'm freaking 34 now, with 4 children and a wife. Yeah, my responsibilities have changed a little bit, but I'm still degenerate at heart. I still play this game. Come on.
Handle those really
Get
big
back.
40-man groups, which went down to like 25 and 10, and then 20 and flex, and then 5-mans for dungeons, and now this solo seasonal endgame. And time is a soup. Let's throw classic in there for a crazy mix to bring players back to familiar times. It was when we could start queuing up for PvE content like dungeons and raids did the conversations really start picking up steam that WoW is starting to feel like a single player game. The community's ruined, server identity is dead, WoW is going on console, and anyone can play with just one button.
It's going on
Everyone
console.
treats each other like a disposable, faceless pug. Players were encouraged to think only for their well-being because, hey, you never run into the same people twice anymore. And we talk about this a lot. It's one part problem, one part consequence of
Haas, that's funny.
today's everything, because this isn't isolated to just WoW. We should keep having conversations and be open with our feedback on the game's direction because we all come from these different points of view. For many years, WoW's devs have been letting the Pug world cultivate, where gamers can treat the game like a single-player experience, and your fellow players are kind of just random factors that help or hurt your chances of clearing that raid or timing that key. But we've been seeing a shift, especially in recent years. Blizzard is targeting what I would say its most underserved audience.
The thing about pugging, the thing about pugging though is pugging doesn't mean like less social necessarily, because pugging back in the day, I mean, you used to have to go into trade chat to pug a group together. So that in and of itself, like forming the pug, used to be a what's it called, like a social feature of the game. Whereas now forming pugs is like, it's just you queue up and you get a random pug. People don't even talk to each other in the pug most of the time. Like I'll say sup when I get invited. That's about it, and then GG at the end. Like that's how most pugs talk to each other these days. Whereas previously, like if you wanted to pug Scarlet Monastery back in classic, vanilla WoW, you had to go into trade chat, form up a group, then you'd be chatting the entire time while you're running there, especially if you're on the Alliance. It takes you fucking 20 minutes to even get to the damn dungeon because there were no summoning stones. And then you'd finally get in the dungeon, you'd be communicating the entire time. Maybe you'd get on TeamSpeak or something, go through the whole thing. Pugging in general is not anti-social or makes the player a single-player game. It's just the current version of pugging kind of does. It's different.
Kind of just random factors that help or hurt your chances of clearing that raid or timing that key. But we've been seeing a shift, especially in recent years. Blizzard is targeting what I would say its most underserved audience, the bona fide solo player. Now, this is different from the folks out there who might have main character syndrome, who treat their fellow players like less than people. I'm talking about gamers who love the World of Warcraft. They like knowing they're part of this persistent world, but they stop short of the interplayer activity because maybe they've always been solo, or their circumstances or preferences have changed. It's none of our business.
Yeah. Server reputation was a big thing too. I mean, I talked about it before. Broadzilla, the fucking Tauren druid that did nothing on Shattered Hand but killed people who were questing on the Isle of Quel'Thalas trying to get your fucking flying mount. That guy was a piece of shit. And everybody on the server knew about him because he would just fucking stealth around and kill people. So what you had to do if you were on the Alliance back then is form up groups to quest, because if you didn't, you were going to get picked off by this piece of shit. And he was known. Everybody knew who the fuck Broadzilla was. The druid that would just pick off Alliance players while you were trying to fucking quest on the Isle. But, I mean, that shit doesn't exist anymore because of cross-server stuff now. But back then, yeah, server reputation was a thing.
Very clear by now, Blizzard wants to break that old sentiment of what an MMORPG should be, innovating where they can and catching up where they need to. The World Soul Saga is this very ambitious milestone achievement that makes one wonder, what's on the other side of it? Is there going to be another saga? Is there going to be a World of Warcraft 2? Or is it just another one of Blizzard's experiments before trying something new? But we don't have to wait for the end of that to see huge changes.
I think it's the grand finale of lore as we know it. The World Soul Saga is the final expansion of WoW as we know it. And I titled one of my videos that the other day, and people fucking lost their minds. They said I was clickbaiting the shit out of them. And I tried to explain it. I'm like, yes, it is a bit clickbaity in a way, but what it's meant to kind of entail is that this is the final expansion of WoW as we currently know it. Once the last Titan hits, we don't know what's beyond that, because it's going to be all new lore, an all new version of WoW probably. It's going to be kind of the WoW 2 version of WoW. Even Bellular the other day, he dropped a video that says the final expansion of WoW. Right? It's not clickbait. It's just kind of trying to hint at this is it. This is where WoW as the current version ends. And whatever happens after this is completely new. It's Chris Metz and WoW. Whatever the fuck's going to happen, we don't know.
Happening now. World of Warcraft has been changing in big strides ever since Shadowlands. For better or worse, everyone's getting more opportunities to have for themselves an adventure, an experience, a gameplay loop of facing a challenge, building themselves up to overcome it, and winning. The 2004 version of MMOs, it's not a dead genre. WoW Classic is still a thing that'll continue to be supported. Other old MMOs are still alive.
It's a changing genre. That's what it is. It's changed. Even World of Warcraft, when it came out, it was different than previous MMOs that came before it, which were way more hardcore. If you were playing, not Elder Scrolls, if you were playing, God, what the hell was it called? EverQuest.
Always use
Kai
another
goes, thank you for the
Death
sub,
Knight.
man. 3 months. 3
Not
months.
sure if French Canadians deserve my Bezo
No, I'm not
bucks,
even
but it
French
might
Canadian.
help you stay off the floor.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for the Prime sub. EverQuest was a MMO that was a much more hardcore version than WoW was. WoW is an MMO as well, but a lot of people back then were like, that's not a real MMO. Because it was so easy compared to EverQuest. It is, though. And right now what we're getting is a different version of MMO. Still MMOs, but slightly different. And it'll continue to change as society changes and gamers' desires and needs change. Serious question, Sam. I've been playing Shadow Priest and Warlock, but I really want to learn Unholy DK. Is it hard to learn? Any tips or tricks? No, I don't think it's hard to learn. I'm not a professional Unholy DK player, but from what I've seen, I mean, people love to play it. It's a really good spec right now. It is part of the meta right now. And by the way, when this patch goes live on June 17th, it's going to be even easier to learn Kenley because they're giving you a rotation helper in the game, so you can literally learn from the rotation helper. It's going to teach you how to play the game. It's going to highlight the next button to click. So that'll be a great time to learn how to play a new spec for sure. Are you still looking for a publicist? Me? What? A publicist? For what? I think you got the wrong person. I don't need a publicist. I am my own publicist. No, fuck that one button shit. No, not the one button shit. That's not what I'm talking about. There is a one button rotation coming in, and there's also a rotation. There is Heckily coming into the game, which is basically it kind of highlights the next button that you could typically click in the moment. That's an add-on that people already download. A lot of people already use it. So it's just going to be an added feature in the game. It is not. I'm not talking about the one button rotation. That's different.
I've been thriving, and to call that audience a niche is reductive.
Right,
at
Cadence,
best.
yes.
But what about the 2025 version of MMOs? My opinion, WoW's been positioning itself to try to represent that, where you can find equally satisfying experiences with friends or strangers, or all on your own. But do you agree? I'd like to hear your thoughts. Since today's weekly is geared towards solo players, I want to share a bit. And a word of warning that this is not going to be me coming at you like a commentator being, kind of both sidesy, but a gamer, just like you, with preferences and likes and dislikes. Like all of you, I have many facets to my playstyle in World of Warcraft, and I'd like to take some time to put a spotlight on players like me who subject themselves to certain personal challenges in this or in other games. So a while back, when Horrific Visions were first introduced with the roadmap, I was freaking ecstatic because I really enjoyed this sort of roguelike gameplay that we don't really see in World of Warcraft.
Right.
And I knew right away one of the big changes was definitely going to be the removal of keys to enter, meaning I could treat this like a roguelike. I can keep crashing against this over and over until I won. Most importantly, I get a lot of enjoyment from giving myself a personal challenge and was looking forward to how it would be presented here. Like with the Mage Tower, I was determined to beat the tank challenge with my main. Before,
I think the Mage Tower changed WoW. I really think it did. I think Blizzard saw how much people loved the Mage Tower and loved solo content, solo challenge content in an MMO, that ever since then, Blizzard decided we're going to try to add more of this into the game. The Mage Tower was the basically the one that broke the ice for everybody. Solo content being an extremely fun thing started with this back in Legion.
the Tomb of Sargeras raid even released,
And it
which
was
would have
fun.
given me more item level upgrades and more throughput to beat it. But no, I wanted to do it beforehand, and I did. It was really satisfying. The Jailer's Gauntlet was a bit more arcadey, but I still wanted to conquer that as soon as possible. I also wanted to down Zekfir and the Underpin straight away. It took a bit longer than I'd like, but hey, it still felt great to beat them. There was, of course, the
one-shot
original Horrific Visions being a great solo challenge for its time despite its many flaws, so for it to come back, naturally I thought it would be a great personal accomplishment to clear it as soon as possible. But I want to be clear, anyone else who completed these kinds of challenges later in the season or the expansion, you should be just as proud for those achievements too. These are all personal points of pride for us that don't need to be compared. Now, it's not lost on me that this is this is very 1% behavior, and not unlike what I'd see from folks who lock in to get Keystone Master or greater in the first week of a season.
Right.
The difference really here is that this is me talking about solo accomplishments. I've been saying that when it comes to time-gated or delayed releases of content, I hear you, I believe you, but for some people, and I'm one of them, This rollout of visions is almost designed for my kind of playstyle because I could clear the field of other obligations before dedicating myself to this fleeting moment in time. And the
Yeah.
time gating that I know some of you
I
hate.
wonder if Stormwind is going to go live again after reset, or they're going to keep both of them open after reset. I don't think anybody knows the answer to that yet, because I actually did not do Orgrimmar at all this week. I just dropped the ball. I just didn't do it. Didn't do it. Never got to it. So I don't know.
It gives this
I
opportunity
got it
to
hooked
test
up in
my
Raid and Mythic
capabilities.
Plus. I never
Like
did
if
it.
everything was just left open and I can choose which map I want to run at will, naturally I'd focus on powering myself up first and maxing everything out and then slam it all in one sitting if I could get away with it. Now I know for many of you, that's not the point. It's not about whether you can do it in one day and then scream, where's the content? But many gamers simply don't like feeling that restriction, that arbitrary gating. They feel like the game hasn't been truly released until everything's available. But I also think to myself, it's like 2 extra resets. Apart from the principle, I personally don't feel a significant impact that irreparably harms this as a feature. It doesn't hit the same if I were to instead artificially restrict myself, as in not take up talent and brag about it later. Again, it's that sense of pride with working with what the game has given me at that time and winning despite the shortcomings. For those of you who've been watching me for a while and are familiar with my tanking style, you see this on full display. I have this very distinct and weird sense of fulfillment. And for all the energy and rhetoric put into railing against the vision schedule, hey, we're going to be over the hump in just a few days if the analysts are right. Visions are going to be fully opened up outside of the map rotation, and I'm going to have this fun story to tell of beating the hardest version of Visions before that. And yeah, I know I did it as a paladin tank. Don't take that away from me, okay? Anyway, putting my commentator hat back on, it's the cool and unfortunate thing about a game like World of Warcraft that the audience is so diverse and may have preferences that seem so unpopular and contradictory to fun. I just wanted to put a spotlight on players who fully embrace those sorts of opportunities, imperfect as it is. That diversity is what urges the devs to keep trying different things that might sound like a waste of dev time and resources, because there is no 50% of players love this one cool thing. Actually, I'm willing to take a guess that there is something 50% of players do like, though, and it's love.
Probably, what's it called? The pirate event. Oh my god, the PvP event. The big one that we had fun doing for a while. I felt like 50% of the player base loved it and 50% hated it. It was the big Battle Royale event. I thought it was fun. But a lot of people were just up in arms and saying, why would we waste dev time on this? I thought it was a good time.
Leveling characters very fast, which is why we've been seeing these kinds of events come back each season. Compared to Visions, given how long it's been since Battle for Azeroth, maybe 5 years to bring something back is an okay enough wait. And that's the show. So it's going to be weird that because the vision maps rotate, Orgrimmar is sort of cemented as the hardest horrific vision revisited map, because next week I'll have more perks than I did in Orgrimmar. So hey, for the horde. But I guess that's also one of those 1% comments, right? But still, I can't help but wonder if certain feedback from Visions is going to inform Blizzard how they continue developing Delves in the future. In just a few short weeks, we're going to see a small addition to Delves. I'm just hoping for something a bit more substantial for Delves in the future. I know I wouldn't mind a feature sort of similar to activating masks in Visions, not just to scale enemy health and damage, but to also add some risky or fun affixes, mostly for bragging rights or a pathetic bonus of Gilded Crest or something. But I also wouldn't mind if future Delves took a good look at the follower system and revamped it in such a way that, hey, maybe we can choose among a selection of followers based on just superficial preferences, and for the most part, gave them all the same abilities and specs and what have you. So it could be like the Dragonscale Expedition. It could be Chromie.
I think it'd be even cooler if they let Warband tunes join you in certain content. I think that'd be really cool.
Or it could be our Order Hall bodyguards, or our people in our Warband, or even Pokepoke.
Yeah.
That little murder bot, right? So anyway, let's wrap things up and give a hearty thanks to the folks watching on stream. Y'all were putting up with a bunch of vision runs and failures, and I hope watching gave you guys some tips on what not to do. A big thanks to our fellow patrons, and we can't forget about you, viewer. You made it to the end. You fed the algorithm, and I'm grateful. Next week is going to feel a little bit stacked with Dastardly Duos and the Stormwind Horrific Vision to knock out. It should be fun, but also adjustable, since duos have their own rollout schedule to not make it feel so overwhelming, aka GER time gating, right? So anyway, please like the video, subscribe for more WoW coverage, catch me live, and I'll catch you later. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.
Yeah, not a bad video. Despite what people think, Blizzard's not trying to make the game shitty. The time gating thing is a kind of a reaction to what people have been asking for, and what a lot of people want is that there's just a lot of players in the game right now who don't play this game hardcore. So time gating makes more sense for them. It takes away some of the FOMO, takes away some of the issues with, feeling like, oh, I can only sub to WoW if I can, commit 8 hours a day to play in the game. No, that's not the case anymore. A lot of people play this game very casually, and that allows people, the time gating allows people to kind of jump in, play as they want, and then leave, and then come back when they want. So, overall, yes, there is some positives to time gating, even though I hate it. But overall, nice video here from Soul So Breezy.